the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky Gervais. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky Gervais right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review the biggest party of the summer, SummerSlam 2023, coming from the home of WrestleMania 23, Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Overall thoughts on this show. I thought this was a great show, a phenomenal show. You guys in Detroit, you guys absolutely knocked it out of the friggin' park. Detroit was a phenomenal crowd. Now, that being said, if you compare this show to what we got at Money in the Bank last year, was Money in the Bank a better show, or was this show better than Money in the Bank? Honestly, I'm going to lean towards Money in the Bank being the better show, because I felt like there was a little bit of duds happening on this show. For example, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler was pretty disappointing, to say the least. I thought the triple threat match between Bianca, Asuka, and Charlotte was very slow, very boring. The crowd wasn't even invested in it. But I will say the high point was Io Sky, of course, cashing in her Money in the Bank and becoming the brand new women's champion. But we had highlights on this show. We had Logan Paul and Ricochet. We had Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar 3, their third match, the rubber match in the trilogy of the feud. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I will say the match that we got at SummerSlam tonight ended up being the best of the whole trilogy. And honestly, it told a great story at the end of the day. And the aftermath after that match was a phenomenal moment as well. We had Seth Rollins and Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight title. 10 times better than the match that we got at Money in the Bank in London. This match was great. Everything about it. You know, I really wanted Finn Balor to win the World Heavyweight title, but there was a greater story to be told regarding the Judgment Day. So honestly, I'm totally fine with Seth Rollins retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. We also had the Battle Royal, in which, of course, LA Knight, won the Battle Royal. He was the one and only man that was supposed to win the Battle Royal, and WWE absolutely 100% pulled the trigger. And of course, we had Tribal Combat as Roman Reigns defends his undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship and also the honor of being the Tribal Chief. He defends that honor and title against, of course, the former right-hand man of Roman Reigns, and really the one that kind of spearheaded the bloodline to begin with, Jey Uso. And throughout the shock of a lot of people, we had Jey Uso losing the match, which honestly was not a shock to me. Coming into this match, I knew Jey Uso was not going to win this match. If you really think about it, if you look at the long-term longevity of it, Jey Uso is not the guy to beat Roman Reigns. It's really Cody Rhodes, and WWE is going forward with their plans for Cody Rhodes as we head towards next year's WrestleMania. But the shocker of the night was, of course, Jimmy Uso. And we got swerved. And no, I am not quoting Vince Russo. We all got swerved, and Jimmy Uso turns on his own flesh and blood, and he turns on Jey Uso, spearheading a story with Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso, which is going to be very interesting, to say the least. There's pros and cons. I'm for it, but at the same time, I'm against it. And in this review, I will talk about why I'm against it, but at the same time, I'm for it at the same time, because there's pros and cons to this whole scenario. But overall thoughts on the Tribal Combat match, I thought it got the job done, but to me, it was, usually when it comes to Roman Reigns matches, they always start off slow, and then they get intense later on. And really, there was a lot of storytelling in the match, so you can't really fault them for that. But I felt like the match was a little bit too slow. Not to say the match was bad, but I felt like the match was a little bit too slow, to say the least. And really the shock value was Jimmy Uso showing up at the end of the day, in which I will talk about the pros and cons of that as well. But overall thoughts on SummerSlam as a whole, I thought it was a great show. WWE never disappoints when it comes to their pay-per-views / premium live events, whatever you want to call them. They always tend to top themselves. Sometimes you'd have duds there and there, but overall, the reception of their pay-per-views throughout this year alone in 2023 has been very positive, and rightfully so. WWE is absolutely hot right now. They are making the most money that they have ever been in the company's history, and they've been doing that before they were even hot. But creatively, even though you may question some of the decisions, you can tell Triple H is booking the majority of the show. Yes, Vince McMahon has some input in the show, but really the majority of the show is Triple H. And you can tell WWE right now is as hot as it's ever been in probably the last 20 years. And the momentum is still going on and on and on. We also had AEW Collision go head-to-head with this show, and that was a very newsworthy show, which I will be talking about AEW Collision tomorrow. As you guys are watching this, it's already Sunday, so hopefully I will upload the AEW Collision review by Sunday night. But that show, there was a lot of news that came out of that show. Of course, we have two matches that it seems like they're going to be official for All In at Wembley Stadium, and it's going to be, and it's official, the Young Bucks will be facing FTR for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, which I'm freaking excited about. And we will also be getting Samoa Joe versus CM Punk in the rematch, which I'm very excited about as well. But I'm going to save that for the AEW Collision review. Right now, we're going to be talking about SummerSlam because SummerSlam, of course, it's basically the second biggest show of the year for WWE, and really, if you think about it, in all of wrestling. So we're going to be talking about SummerSlam. We're going to be diving deep into everything that we saw, my thoughts, what I liked, what I didn't like, and I'm going to be going just full-fledged on this whole review for SummerSlam. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding WWE SummerSlam 2023, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, if you guys had missed it, the SmackDown review is up on the channel. I talk about brothers going to war before SummerSlam in Detroit, with Jey Uso before facing off against Roman Reigns in tribal combat for the Undisputed Title, faced off against his own younger brother, Solo Sikoa. Overall thoughts on SmackDown. SmackDown was a fine show. Nothing really special happened on this show. It was the go-home show for SummerSlam, but really nothing really special happened on the show. But it is what it is. If you guys want my thoughts on SmackDown, the link will be in the description below. But also, the AEW Dynamite 200 review is up on the channel as well. I talk about AEW Dynamite celebrating 200 episodes of amazing moments and memories. Of course, we had a lot of developments happen on this show. Of course, we had the main event of All In official. It's going to be Adam Cole taking on MJF for the AEW World Championship. That is the hottest story right now in AEW. And that storyline is moving needles, bro. That storyline is a 100% draw. Phenomenal stuff. But if you guys want to check out the AEW Dynamite 200 review, the link will also be in the description below. All right, without any further ado, let's dive deep into SummerSlam 2023. The show kicked off with an amazing opening, showcasing Kid Rock and video packages, showcasing all the matches that we're going to be seeing tonight on SummerSlam. One thing that I will always say about WWE, and they are literally the best at this, nobody else can top them, is the video production and their quality of their video packages, even the openings of their pay-per-views. It can be the worst pay-per-view you could ever watch. These guys will literally hype you up for the worst shit, and you got to applaud them for that because, again, just the production and the quality of the way WWE produces these video packages are absolutely phenomenal. WWE, at the end of the day, are masters at production. They've been masters at production for decades. And you can tell this is very mainstream as mainstream can get with the inclusion of Kid Rock. They did the same thing for, of course, WrestleMania with Kevin Hart. These intros have been absolutely phenomenal, and I've been enjoying this. But without any further ado, let's actually dive deep in the actual card. The show kicks off with Logan Paul taking on Ricochet. Now, it was pretty much expected that this match was going to open SummerSlam because of the fact that Logan Paul's brother Jake Paul is actually fighting tonight. He's actually fighting Nate Diaz in a boxing match, and I believe the story is that Logan Paul requested to Triple H that this match would open the show because he needed to fly all the way to where his brother Jake is fighting to support Jake Paul in his fight against Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz. I said Nick. Nate and Nick are completely two different things. But whatever. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a great match. I absolutely enjoyed it. This is one of the better matches that was actually built for this pay-per-view. And honestly, I don't give a shit what anybody says, but you really have to we all need to put respect in the name of Logan Paul when it comes to professional wrestling. You may not like Logan Paul, and I've constantly went on here and stated this time and time and time again, but I will always repeat myself because people still do not understand the memo and get the memo. But Logan Paul, when it comes to the wrestling ring, this guy mastered the art and he mastered the craft of professional wrestling. So you always got to respect Logan Paul. Logan Paul as a heel is the best version of Logan Paul. I think his mic skills can be a little bit better, but I genuinely believe with the build-up with Ricochet, in the lead up towards this match, I think Logan Paul was starting to get more comfortable in his role as a heel and in his role leading up towards this match. And you got to applaud Logan Paul for that. Ricochet, you can't take anything away from Ricochet. Ricochet is exactly what WWE advertises. He is the human highlight reel, and he really is that. And I'm glad that, finally WWE is really putting the spotlight on Ricochet because we all know he's that damn talented. Will he ever be WWE champion? Probably not, and the main reason as to why that is the case is because of the fact that, and this is just the reality of the situation, Ricochet is just not that good on the microphone. At the end of the day, he's just not that good on the microphone, but Ricochet is the type of wrestler in which if WWE ever puts him in a particular, type of match that can garner mainstream attention, it will garner that mainstream attention, and that match, of course, was against Logan Paul, with Logan Paul getting the win with the help of somebody giving him brass knuckles. So we're going to be talking about this match spot by spot, but overall, this was a phenomenal opener towards SummerSlam. Of course, Logan Paul and Ricochet face off in the ring. Ricochet slaps Logan Paul. We get the head scissors by Ricochet, and then he follows up with the drop kick. Logan goes to the outside, but then Ricochet tricks Logan Paul by going over the top rope, so you got to love that. He's playing mind games with Ricochet. We then get a side headlock by Ricochet, but then we get a sunset flip by Logan Paul. We get a kick missed by Ricochet, but then we get a back elbow, followed by a hip toss. After that, we get a side headlock by Logan Paul, but then Ricochet is on the apron. He ends up hitting a right hand, but then Logan regains control. Then after that, Ricochet goes for a back elbow. Logan then goes for a neckbreaker on the apron on Ricochet, landing him to the outside. After that, Logan turns his attention to Samantha Irvin. Of course, the ring announcer, and of course, Ricochet's real-life fiance. Once we're back into the ring, we get a series of right hands by Logan Paul, and we get repeated body shots by Logan Paul into the corner. And Michael Cole on commentary even mentions when Logan Paul was hitting the body shots, Michael Cole was mentioning the boxing ability of Logan Paul. Logan takes Ricochet to the top rope. He ends up picking up Ricochet, and he goes for the running power slam. And that was to basically mock, of course, Ricochet's quote-unquote tag team partner, Braun Strowman, who is currently injured right now. We get a cover into near fall. Logan continues to be in control of this match over Ricochet. We then get a boot by Ricochet, but then he ends up hitting a beautiful leg drop. And Michael Cole on commentary says Logan Paul calls that the Hogan Paul, to paying homage, of course, to the legendary Hulk Hogan. After that, we get a spine buster by Ricochet, and then we get a series of stomps on Ricochet, and then he goes for a standing moonsault, that being Ricochet. Ricochet is actually regaining control, so he goes for the standing moonsault. Ricochet, of course, was paying homage to The Rock by kind of, setting up the tone when The Rock does the people's elbow, but instead of doing the people's elbow, he does the standing moonsault. That was pretty badass to see. We get a cover into near fall, but then we get a backdrop by Logan Paul, and then we got a high back body drop. This was a high back body drop by Logan Paul. Then after that, we get a springboard clothesline by Logan Paul. Both men are on the apron. After that, Logan goes for the, I believe it was either Logan or, I completely forgot, but there was a Spanish fly spot off the apron. Both men get back up on their feet. Both men fight it out. Ricochet hits a standing Spanish fly on the outside. Ricochet then goes back into the ring, but Logan drags Ricochet to the outside. Logan Paul goes for a buckshot lariat on the outside. After that, he grabs a Prime drink from somebody in the front row, and he just spills Prime all over Ricochet. Once we're back into the ring, Logan Paul goes for a beautiful high crossbody, followed by a standing moonsault. We then get a cover into near fall. Both men go for a series of exchanging of strikes. Logan then runs shoulder first to the ring post. Both men are on the top. Ricochet then goes for a neck breaker. We get repeated kicks by Ricochet, and then we get a back elbow by Ricochet, but then he manages to take down Logan Paul repeatedly. Ricochet is on the apron. He ends up hitting a springboard crossbody followed by a running shooting star press. We get a cover and a kick out. We get a series of kicks to the chest of Logan Paul by Ricochet, but then Logan Paul counters. Both men then counter each other off. After this is one of my favorite spots of the entire match. Probably the best spot in this whole match. Logan Paul off the second rope. Logan Paul off the second rope goes for a moonsault. He gets caught by Ricochet, right? So Ricochet catches Logan Paul after trying to attempt a suplex off the second rope. Once Ricochet has Logan up, Logan ends up countering back at Ricochet and goes for a tornado DDT. The athleticism in this man is fucking nuts. Best spot of the entire match. We get a cover and a near fall. We then get a jumping knee by Ricochet. Ricochet ends up going for the recoil. He goes to the top, and then he ends up hitting the shooting star press. Logan then gets the knees up, and then we get a cover by Logan Paul and a kick out. Logan then picks up Ricochet. He drives him face first to the mat. Logan is in control once again. After that, Logan is on the apron, and then he hits the springboard frog splash. We get a cover by Logan and a kick out. He lands into a kick by Ricochet. Ricochet then drives Logan down with the Death Nation kick. After that, we get a springboard moonsault by Ricochet, and we get a cover and a near fall. Ricochet drags Logan into the corner, but then Logan grabs Ricochet's ankle. After that, Ricochet is on the top. He tries to go for the 630, but missed because Logan rolled out of the way. Logan, then, out of nowhere, he's on the apron, and this random dude gives him brass knuckles. After that, he hits the one lucky shot with the brass knuckles. We get a cover, and Logan Paul gets the win. And Logan then asks Samantha Irvin one more time, say my name one more time, but the camera panned to Samantha Irvin, and she was like, no, absolutely not. Samantha refuses. She said his name once, and she stopped saying it because she loves Ricochet, of course. Oh, you gotta love that. Overall thoughts on this match, again, as I stated at the top before I went through the whole match, this was a phenomenal opener to SummerSlam. You know, if there was a match that, you know, I mean, due to the circumstances, of course, this was going to open the show, but, you know, if this match didn't even open the show, I would have been fine with it. I mean, any placement that this match would have been, they would have stole the show anytime. But nonetheless, Logan Paul looked phenomenal. Ricochet was great. I actually thought Ricochet was going to get the win in this match, but from what it looks like, that didn't happen. Do I see a rematch down the line between Ricochet and Logan Paul? Yes, I do. When will that happen? I have no idea. A lot of people are pointing at Payback, maybe Survivor Series. I mean, Payback is the next pay-per-view, so I assume we're probably going to be getting the rematch at Payback. But nonetheless, this was a phenomenal opener. The spots that were literally, shown in this match, probably the best spot of the night was when, of course, Logan hit the moonsault. Ricochet catches him, but then Logan hits a tornado DDT. If you want to talk about a viral moment, that was definitely a viral moment. Was there like a crazy spot in the match where like it was kind of similar to like the Royal Rumble where, of course, Logan and Ricochet did that double springboard crossbody? No, but this match got the job done and it needed what it needed to do. If anybody is doubting the ability of Logan Paul, clearly they do not know wrestling and clearly they do not know what good in-ring psychology is. That's just my opinion. Logan Paul has mastered the craft of professional wrestling, and he knows what he is doing in that ring. Sometimes I don't even feel like he's a mainstream superstar or a mainstream megastar, I should say. Sometimes I feel like he's just a wrestler in that ring, and that's it. But nonetheless, this was a great opener. Hats off to both Ricochet and Logan Paul. I do expect that there would be a rematch down the line in the future, considering the outcome that we saw at SummerSlam. All right. In our next match, we got the third match, the rubber match of the feud that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes 3. This was a great match. I loved this match. Probably one of the best matches of the night. Was this better than Rollins versus Balor? No. But this match was fucking awesome. This was 10 times better than the previous two matches that we got between Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. The first match that happened at Backlash was fine. But if you think about it, the match ended very randomly with a roll-up spot, which got Cody the win. The second match, was a little bit better than the Backlash match, but for me, it's just like, what was the whole point of this whole match? This match, though, within just the realm of the third match, not really the story of Brock and Cody, but just the realm of the third match itself, the story that was told was phenomenal. That's the biggest takeaway that I can give you. The story that was told with Cody Rhodes and not giving up, that was the biggest takeaway that I can give you. But I'm going to go through this whole match, and then I'm going to give you really my whole entire thoughts on this whole match. So the match starts. Cody immediately goes after Brock Lesnar as soon as the bell rings. Brock goes for a German suplex. Cody then hangs Brock on the top rope. We get a right hand by Cody, followed by a disaster kick. He goes for the second disaster kick, and then he goes for the third, but with the third disaster kick, Brock Lesnar catches him. After that, Brock drives Cody repeatedly into the corner. Brock then sidesteps and runs shoulder first onto the ring post. Cody goes for the tope on the outside. Cody then fights off Brock Lesnar. And what happens is after he fights off Brock Lesnar, Brock drives Cody onto the ring post, and then he sends Cody back into the ring. Brock is in control, but then Brock picks up Cody and drops him furiously down to the mat with a gut wrench. After that, we get a belly-to-belly suplex by Brock. Cody goes for repeated elbows on the midsection, but then Brock hits a kick to the midsection. Brock then goes for a suplex on Cody, but then we get a cover by Brock and a kick out. Brock goes for a German suplex, and then we get a second German suplex by Brock. Cody is on the outside, but then Cody comes back into the ring. Brock then drives his knees on Cody into the ring, but then we get a German suplex once again by Cody. Cody gets sent to the outside by Brock. And this has been a common occurrence throughout the majority of this match. Cody would get sent to the outside, and Cody would always beat the count. So the referee is counting. Cody comes back to the apron at the count of 6. Brock then pushes Cody back to the outside. Brock is screaming furiously at Cody Rhodes, "Stay down and save yourself." I loved that touch. The referee's continuing to count. Cody gets back up on his feet. Cody comes back into the ring. He is selling his ribs, of course. We get a belly-to-belly suplex by Brock. Brock drags Cody to the outside once again, but Cody comes back. Brock then takes Cody. He hits a clothesline, sending Cody once again to the outside. You know how I told you guys that this was a common occurrence? Well, this was the common occurrence, and this was the story that was told. Cody didn't give up. Cody is down once again onto the outside. Cody comes back at the count of 8. Brock goes to the outside, and at this point, Brock Lesnar is pissed the fuck off. He picks up Cody, and he ends up hitting the F5 on the floor. Brock comes back into the ring. He demands that the referee counts, but it wasn't enough. Cody Rhodes comes back at 9. Cody then drags himself back to his feet. Cody fights off Brock. Brock, being the pissed off son of a bitch that he is, he ends up going for a German suplex on Cody. Cody gets taken back to the outside. Brock goes to the outside, and then he picks up Cody. He picks up Cody and hits the F5 through the announce table. And Michael Cole on commentary, and you want to know why Michael Cole is so good right now? It's because of the emotion that he shows. He would scream on commentary right after that F5 spot, "Damn it, Cody, just stay down." But Cody Rhodes, of course, being the babyface, was not going to do that. A very heroic comeback by Cody Rhodes. Cody comes back up on his feet. Cody comes back beating the count, pissing off Brock Lesnar even more. Cody then is on his knees looking at Brock. Brock continues to just beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes. Cody then tries to fight back, but then Brock goes for a belly-to-belly suplex. We then get a waistlock by Brock, but then Brock goes for a German by having Cody Rhodes pull the turnbuckle pad. So Brock, Cody was holding onto the turnbuckle pad, but then Brock hit the German, and that led to the turnbuckle pad being exposed, and that plays a major factor later on in this match. Cody's on the outside. He grabs the steel steps, but then Brock kicks the steps off of Cody Rhodes. He picks up Cody, but then Cody escapes. He then drives him on the ring post repeatedly, but then Cody hits him with the steel steps. Cody then comes back into the ring. He ends up hitting the disaster kick. Then goes for the Cody cutter. Goes to the top rope and hits another Cody cutter. We get a cover and a near fall. Cody is back up on his feet, but then Brock counters, applying the Kimura lock. Cody almost makes it to the bottom rope, and he finally makes it. Brock picks up Cody. Cody escapes, and then he sends him to the exposed turnbuckle. Cody himself then applies the Kimura lock, Brock Lesnar's own move. Brock gets up and drives him to the mat. Brock picks him up. Cody counters the move by Brock Lesnar into the crossroads. He goes for a second crossroads. And after that second crossroads, he holds on to Brock. And from what it looked like, you would assume, you the viewer watching, Brock was going to counter this third crossroads. But nope. He held on to Brock, hits the third crossroads, and we get a cover. 1, 2, 3. Cody Rhodes defeats Brock Lesnar clean, dead center in the ring. No fluke victory whatsoever. And Cody Rhodes stands tall by being the victor of this whole feud against Brock Lesnar. After the match, this was a phenomenal moment. Both men face off with one another. Brock goes closer to Cody, and both men just go head-to-head. Brock goes for a headbutt, but not a legit headbutt, like a headbutt as a sign of respect. And Brock offers a handshake, and both shake hands, and Brock raised the hand of Cody Rhodes as a sign of respect. And that was Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar 3. Overall, man, I've been very critical of the feud between Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. I really have. Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes is one of those feuds that honestly to me not only just doesn't make any sense, but honestly I just wasn't really interested in. It would have made more sense if the titles were involved, but of course the titles are not involved because Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But I will say this. This third match was 10 times better than the shit that we got at Backlash and also the shit that we got at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. This match was everything that it needed to be. Just the brutality of the situation. There was no blood in this match, but the brutality of the situation, the way Brock Lesnar was beating the hell out of Cody Rhodes, the story of Cody not giving up. Every time when Cody Rhodes would go back to the outside and the referee would count and Cody Rhodes would come back at the count of like 8 or 9, Brock Lesnar would inflict more pain on Cody Rhodes. That was a beautiful story to tell. And I really, really, really liked what I saw in this match. By far the best match in their whole trilogy. Not just by the craziness, but by the story itself. The story really wrote itself in this whole match. Now, the bigger question is what does Brock Lesnar do? Honestly, I do not know. But the other question that we need to ask ourselves is, what does Cody Rhodes do? That is the bigger question, because we all know Cody Rhodes is leading and most likely going to be main eventing next year's WrestleMania. They're 100%. You don't even need to watch the show. You just know for a fact they're going to have Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns again next year at Philadelphia at WrestleMania. You just know that's going to happen. But as of right now, who is Cody Rhodes going to feud with as, he closed this chapter on this feud against Brock Lesnar? We do not know. But a lot of people are saying it's Bray Wyatt. I hope to God not, because, again, I don't want to see Cody Rhodes overcome adversity with all the supernatural shit going on. To me, that's not overcoming adversity. That's just, just dealing with stupid shit that's not even real. But that's just my opinion. But nonetheless, this was a phenomenal match, probably one of the best matches of the entire night. Was this better than Rollins versus Balor? No, but it definitely got the job done. So hats off to Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. If anything, another thing I wanted to mention about this, and I completely forgot to mention this, the story was so good that the crowd believed in what they were seeing. They believed in what Cody Rhodes was doing, and if anything, the way that this match was booked, the fans are becoming more behind Cody by the weeks that pass by. That's another takeaway that I can give you about that. Moving on, we have the Slim Jim Battle Royal. Of course, this is the Battle Royal that is sponsored by Slim Jim. Shout out to the Macho Man, Randy Savage. God rest his soul. But overall, this was a fine match. I didn't really care as much about it because if you really think about it, whoever wins this Battle Royal, what do they win? That's the biggest question. What do they win? I'll tell you the answer right now. They win absolutely nothing. But I will say the right man won. And, of course, the right man came in the form of Mr. L.A. Knight. That is not an insult. That is just a fact of life. yeah. I love when he does that, yeah, or every time when he's like, nah. I just love that. I really love impersonating LA Knight. This guy is so fucking over with the audience. Detroit they love Mr. LA Knight. But we got a surprise participant in this match in the form of the Nigerian giant, Omos. I'm not going to go through everything in this match, honestly. This was basically your generic battle royal. Omos was in this match. Omos basically throws JD McDonough to elimination. Everybody gangs up on Omos. All three members of the Brawling Brutes go for the 10 beats of the Bowering on Omos at the same time. Omos goes for a clothesline. Otis gets eliminated by Imperium. Shinsuke later gets eliminated. Bronson Reed drives Ciampa into the corner and he eliminates Ciampa. Theory eliminates Cameron Grimes. Of course, Theory beat Cameron Grimes the night before on SmackDown. Santos Escobar, who is the man that Austin Theory will defend his United States Championship this Saturday, or not this Saturday, I was about to say Saturday regarding Collision. No, this Friday on SmackDown. He faces off with him. Santos eliminates Austin Theory. Then Cross from behind eliminates Santos Escobar. Santos with an enziguri. Cross boots him to elimination. Gable holds him to the ropes. Gable goes for the head scissors, eliminating Kaiser. Of course, later on in the match, Grayson Waller and The Miz team up. LA Knight hangs on, almost gets eliminated, but he comes back and eliminates Miz. Then we get a knee by Sheamus on Waller. Waller gets eliminated. Bronson Reed then takes out both Sheamus and LA Knight. Cross gets eliminated by the Pele kick by AJ Styles. Gable goes for a deadlift German suplex, but then Bronson holds on. Bronson then eliminates Gable, but then LA Knight tries to eliminate Bronson Reed. Reed picks up Knight, but then Knight is on the apron. Knight then eliminates Bronson Reed. And then we get the Irish Curse backbreaker by Sheamus on AJ. He misses the bro kick. AJ goes for the clothesline. He's on the apron and he hits a right hand. But Cross, who got eliminated earlier in the match, grabs the boot of AJ. And what happens is basically he goes for a slam. LA Knight goes for a slam. And then he goes for the elbow. Later on, we get a kick by Knight, a knee by Sheamus countering the BFT, the blunt force trauma. And then he picks up Knight for the Celtic Cross. LA Knight takes him on the apron. LA Knight comes back. He hits a belly-to-belly throw off the top on Sheamus. LA Knight ends up winning the Battle Royal. That is not an insult. That is just a fact of life. Yeah. Overall, this was a great Battle Royal. It was fine. Honestly, this was kind of my break match. But I will say the right man won in the form of Mr. LA Knight. I can't stress enough how hot LA Knight is right now when it comes to the connections that he is gravitating with the audience. And I really do believe LA Knight really deserves the push that he really needs to get. Because, again, the way that he was treated last year as he was portrayed as Max Dupree, we all knew LA Knight was talented, but the former people that were running that place just did not really see any value of LA Knight. But now, fast forward with the Triple H regime, and they basically changed him into LA Knight. They reverted him back to LA Knight. He's not only one of the highest-selling merchandise sellers in the WWE, but also LA Knight is just so over with the audience that the audience just loves this guy. They love this guy, and honestly, LA Knight was the right guy to win. Now, the biggest question is what is going to be happening with LA Knight? What does he win? You know, what was the whole point of this Battle Royal? Why was this Battle Royal created? What do you win? That is the bigger question. I think the perfect guy to take that United States Championship away from Austin Theory is clearly LA Knight. Nobody else. Not Santos Escobar, not Rey Mysterio. LA Knight should be the guy. But we're going to have to wait and see what they do. But LA Knight wins the Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal. In our next match, we got Shayna Baszler taking on Ronda Rousey in an MMA rules match. Now, you guys know my thoughts on this. The build for this match was pretty bad. I didn't enjoy at all the promos that Ronda was cutting and the promos that even Shayna was cutting, even though we all know Shayna is much better at promos than Ronda Rousey. But the video packages that they aired this past Monday on Raw showcasing the history between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey was something that really gravitated me towards excitement when it comes to this match. Now, I will say, was this match great? No. If anything, this was probably one of the weakest matches of the entire night. Not only that, this match was an MMA rules match. Now, I do understand Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey do have MMA backgrounds. They both are cut from the same cloth. But I've seen this happen in AEW. When you try to do an MMA-style match on a wrestling show, it just doesn't work. Very rarely it works. But the majority of the time, it doesn't. The only time that I thought it worked tremendously well was TNA Lockdown 2008 with Kurt Angle defending his TNA World title against Samoa Joe. That was a perfect blend in a mixture of MMA and professional wrestling. Then later on in AEW, we had matches like Jake Hager and Wardlow. Get that shit out of here. That shit was fucking atrocious. We had matches like Brock Lesnar versus Cain Velasquez. I did not like that shit either. It was a bad match, and it was something that really, if you think about it, kind of made no sense. This was not really that good of a match. It was pretty boring, to say the least. Shayna and Ronda definitely tried the best that they could to really put this match over, but this match just didn't really do anything for me, and honestly, I genuinely believe this. It didn't really do anything for the audience as well. But since this is an MMA rules match, you win by knockout or submission. Honestly, this match should have been a fight pit match. If this was a fight pit match, it would have been 10 times better than the shit that we got when it comes to Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam. Ronda goes for a takedown. She goes after Shayna. We get an armbar attempt by Ronda, but then we get a high kick by Shayna on Ronda, sending her to the outside. Later on, they are in the ring. Both women go for repeated strikes. We get a jumping knee by Ronda on the face of Shayna. Ronda takes her down. Ronda goes for repeated shots to the back of Shayna, but then Shayna picks up Ronda. Both women get taken to the outside, but then Shayna comes back into the ring. She's down, Ronda is up. She yells at her to get up, but then Shayna later on in the match is getting medical attention. But Ronda takes out the medical team, and that's going to cause her a few bucks. She's definitely going to get fined for that, in kayfabe, of course. Ronda argues with the referee. Then both women fight it out. We get a suplex by Shayna, followed by a carry to clutch apply, but then Ronda rolls through and applies the armbar. Shayna then transitions and applies the ankle lock. Ronda then counters and applies the sleeper hold. Ronda then tries to break Shayna's arm, but Shayna makes Ronda tap out, and Shayna Baszler gets the win. This was not the best match of the show. Again, this should have been a fight pit match. It would have made way more sense if this match was a fight pit match because, again, this is pro wrestling. This is not MMA. And when you try to emulate MMA, a lot of people that watch MMA will see right through your bullshit. But nonetheless, this was a fine match. Nothing special. Probably the weakest match of the entire card, in my opinion. But the right woman won in Shayna Baszler. Now, what happens with Ronda Rousey? Ronda Rousey is a very interesting question because, again, Ronda Rousey looks like she's definitely on her way out of WWE, or either she's going to take a break. That's what I heard in the news immediately after this match. We're going to have to wait and see, but honestly, if Ronda Rousey, did leave the WWE, I wouldn't really miss Ronda Rousey because, again, her recent, run was just fucking atrocious. We get the SummerSlam attendance record, and it is 59,194 fans at Ford Field. I believe that was very well rounded off, and I believe the actual number is roughly around 51,000. That's what I saw on WrestleTix on Twitter. We got our next match. We got Drew McIntyre taking on the Ring General Gunther for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. I love how they say that. But Ludwig Kaiser is so fucking charismatic. He's so good on the microphone. You may think he sounds like an idiot. And trust me, sometimes I think he sounds like an idiot. But, bro, when he says Gunther's name, bro, I fucking pop. Imperium/Gunther is one of my favorite things on WWE television right now. This match was everything that it needed to be. Big, meaty men fighting each other, and this was meat on meat. Big, meaty men fighting off meat, or fighting each other, meeting each other. That sounded very wrong, but this was a big, meaty men match. And I believe the same producer that produced the Triple Threat at WrestleMania produced this match. Now, I'm going to compare this match to the Triple Threat that we saw at WrestleMania a couple of months ago. Was this match better than Sheamus versus Gunther versus Drew McIntyre at Mania? No, it was not. But this match got the job done. It did everything that it needed to do. There were times in this match where I honestly thought Drew McIntyre was actually going to get the win. But looking back, it's kind of not smart to put the belt on Drew McIntyre, considering the fact that Gunther right now is on the verge of beating the Honky Tonks record of longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history. But this match was absolutely phenomenal, man. The chops, just the strikes, everything got the job done. And that is what you really want. All right, let's go through the match. Both men lock up. We got a shoulder tackle by Gunther. We got a shoulder tackle by Drew taking down Gunther. We get a kick by Gunther followed by a side headlock takeover. Drew drops down Gunther with the back suplex, and then he sends Gunther to the barricade on the apron. He then sends Gunther back into the ring. Gunther goes for the uppercut. We then get the Glasgow kiss by Drew, but then Drew gets driven into the ring post. Gunther then drops Drew on the top of the steel steps, but then Gunther is in the ring. Gunther, after that, stomps after Drew McIntyre. Both men exchange strikes. We get a chop by Gunther taking down Drew McIntyre. Gunther then takes Drew, but then he ends up hitting an overhand chop on Drew, taking him down to the mat. After that, we get a double underhook suplex by Gunther. We get a cover and a 1 count. Gunther then continues to be in control, but then Gunther goes for repeated clotheslines. Both men go for a series of clotheslines. Gunther goes for a chop on Drew, and then he ends up hitting the release German suplex. Drew gets back up, and he ends up hitting a lariat, Kojima. I wanted to mention that. We get a chop by Gunther. Drew then delivers chops of his own. Drew goes for a belly-to-belly. Then he goes for another throw. Gunther then tries to fight back, but then Drew hits a neckbreaker. Drew gets up. Drew McIntyre then ends up setting up the Claymore kick, but then Gunther gets up. But what happens is he ducks. Gunther then goes for a running shotgun dropkick, sending Drew McIntyre into the corner. And once Gunther hits that shotgun dropkick, sending you into the corner, you know shit's about to get real. We get a powerbomb by Gunther countered. Drew goes for a powerbomb. We get a future shock DDT by Drew. We get a cover into near fall. Drew then goes for the countdown, setting up the Claymore kick. But Gunther gets, he just rolls to the outside. Drew goes for a senton over the top rope on Gunther. And what happens is Drew lands on his feet on the outside. He takes Gunther back into the ring. Drew goes for the countdown once again. But Gunther ends up hitting a drop kick. We then get a powerbomb by Gunther. We then get a cover by Gunther and a near fall. Gunther goes to the top. He hits a splash out the top, and then we get a cover by Gunther and a near fall. Gunther then continues to be in control. He hits repeated strikes to the head of Drew. After that, we get a chop blocked by Drew. After that, Drew goes for a chop of his own. Gunther goes for a chop. Both men just exchange chops, but then Drew immediately hits the Claymore kick. At this point, Gunther is down. We get a cover by Drew and a kick out. Drew gets Gunther up on his shoulders. He takes him to the top rope. We get a chop by Drew McIntyre, followed by a second chop by Drew. Drew goes to the second rope, and then he tries to pick up Gunther in a powerbomb position, but then Gunther fights back. Both men exchange a series of shots, but then Drew gets driven to the top rope, landing onto the ground. Gunther ends up going for a splash, and then he hits the powerbomb, and we get a cover, and Gunther retains the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. This was a phenomenal match. Everything that it needed to be. Again, big meaty men just beating the living shit out of each other. That's what I fucking love, bro. We saw this at WrestleMania, and the three-way that we saw at WrestleMania was 100% the show stealer. Was this the show stealing match? No. But besides the quality that we saw in this match, they both delivered their all. Now, I will say this. Gunther right now retaining, I should say, the Intercontinental title was definitely the right decision to make. Because, of course, Gunther is on the verge of beating the Honky Tonk Man's record as Intercontinental Champion. They should really have him do that because, again, Gunther right now is on a run of a lifetime. If there's one thing positive that you can say about WWE TV right now, you can just talk about the way that they are booking Gunther. Gunther is being booked like a freaking killer. And I guarantee you, he will be a world champion in the future. All right. We got Seth Rollins taking on Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. One little side note. I remember when they first unveiled the World Heavyweight Championship a couple of months ago. I think it was like 2 weeks after WrestleMania. And I didn't really enjoy the look of the belt. That belt has grown on me dramatically. But I digress. Seth is wearing the same vest that he wore at SummerSlam in 2016. This match was storyline driven. One of the reasons why is because of this moment. A lot of nods back at SummerSlam 2016. Fun fact, I actually attended SummerSlam 2016. I, was there at the Barclays Center where we saw Seth Rollins taking on Finn Balor for the first ever Universal Championship. And throughout the majority of that match, everybody was chanting, "We want a new belt," because they hated the design of that belt. But I digress once again. A lot of different homages, dating back to, SummerSlam 2016, the story of the buckle bomb and, each man using it. I love that. That is what I really loved about this match. The involvement of Damian Priest being involved was great, where Damian Priest was going to basically give the briefcase to Finn Balor to basically hit Seth Rollins with it, but instead Finn Balor thought he was going to cash it in, which led to the outcome that we actually saw. But nonetheless, let's go through this match. All right. So the match starts. The crowd, of course, is singing Seth Rollins' song. Balor from behind goes after Seth when the bell rings. Seth drives Balor into the corner. This was actually before the bell rings, to say the least. So the bell finally rings. Both men fight it out. Seth takes down Finn Balor. Later on in the match, I'm not going to go through everything. I'm really going to point towards the key points. Balor continues to work on the shoulder of Seth Rollins. That was a common occurrence throughout the majority of this whole match. Balor then drives his elbow on Seth, but then Seth tries to escape, but then Balor takes him back down. Balor then drives his knee on Seth, but then we get a chop by Balor. Rollins then goes to the corner. He continues to work on the arm. After that, Seth tries to fight back, but then we get a series of right hands by Seth Rollins. Seth goes for a series of rights, and he goes for chops on Balor. Balor then goes for a side Russian leg sweep. Later on in this match, we get an overhead chop by Balor. After that, later on in the match, Seth counters the Sling Blade attempt into the Falcon Arrow, and this is where really the match gets intense. So what happens is before that, Seth comes back with a clothesline. Balor goes for a kick in the midsection. We get repeated headbutts by Seth, followed by a kick by Rollins, and then goes for the clothesline. We get a cover engineer fall, and Seth goes for the pedigree, right? Balor counters the pedigree, and since Seth tries to counter the Sling Blade into the Falcon Arrow, in which he did. Seth goes for the tope. He goes for the second tope, and then the third. Seth goes to the top, but then Balor enters the fray, but then he sends Seth on his injured shoulder on the post. Balor takes Seth for the powerbomb, but then Seth escapes, dumping him down on the apron. Or out of the apron, I should say. Balor comes back into the ring. Seth is on the apron. We get a kick by Balor, but then Balor goes for a buckle bomb on Seth on the barricade. Again, not paying homage, but really the nod back to SummerSlam 2016. The story of this is Balor wanting revenge, and that is why he hit that buckle bomb on Seth on that particular corner of the barricade. That was great stuff. I loved that touch. Once we're back in the ring, Balor goes for the Sling Blade. Balor runs into a super kick, and then what happens is he drops down Seth. After that, we get a cover into near fall. Balor then applies the arm bar. We get a roll up by Seth. Seth powers him up. Then what happens is he hits the second buckle bomb on Balor. We get a second buckle bomb on Balor in the corner. Goes to the top. Seth goes for the frog splash, and we get a cover and a near fall. Balor is bleeding from the mouth at this point. Balor rolls through, stomp onto the chest of Seth, but then we get a dropkick sending Seth into the corner. Balor goes to the top. Seth comes in. He ends up hitting a superplex. He tries to go for the Falcon Arrow, but then Balor goes for the roll-up, and we get a near fall. Rollins hits the Enziguri. We then get an overhead kick by Balor, but then both men exchange their shots at one another. We get a rolling elbow by Seth. Balor then ducks Seth. We get a running shotgun dropkick into the corner with Seth landing on his shoulder. Great selling by Seth Rollins. Balor misses the coup de grace. Seth goes for the pedigree, and we get a cover by Seth, and we get a close-ass near fall. Then the crowd turns towards the entrance with Damian Priest coming out with his Money in the Bank contract. Balor goes for the roll-up on Seth. We get a near fall. Seth picks up Balor, and what happens is Balor escapes. We get a roll-up by Seth and a near fall. Seth then lands into a right hand by Priest, but then Balor goes for the pedigree. And what happens is we get a cover and a close ass near fall. At this point, Priest is waving, and it's Rhea and Dominic. Rhea and Dominic come out, but then Balor refuses to get the briefcase from Damian Priest, because Damian Priest is offering Finn Balor the briefcase so he can hit Rollins with the briefcase without the referee looking. But Balor believes that Priest is trying to cash in, but that was not Priest's intentions. Rollins comes in. He knocks out Priest. We get a stomp by Rollins, and we get a cover and a kick out. Seth goes to the top, and then he takes out Priest, and then he takes out Dom. He hits a stomp, and once we're back into the ring, Balor goes for the Sling Blade. We get a drop kick by Balor. Balor goes to the top. Balor goes for the coup de grace. We get a cover and another close-ass near fall. Balor then asks Priest to get the briefcase. But Priest asked him that already. And Priest, of course, leaves the case into the ring. But what happens is Priest ends up distracting the referee. We get a stomp onto the briefcase by Rollins on Finn Balor. And we get a cover. And Seth Rollins retains the World Heavyweight Championship, albeit due to controversial circumstances. But this was a phenomenal match. This was awesome. I loved this match. I loved the story that was told regarding, of course, the past between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Of course, the buckle bomb spots on the barricade, the buckle bomb spots in the ring. The buckle bomb itself plays a major role in the story of this match. And that is what they really tried to showcase. I loved that aspect. And the involvement of Judgment Day was great. Now, I will say this. I really do wish Finn should have won this title. If there was any time to take the belt off of Seth Rollins, it could have easily been tonight at SummerSlam. But I understand why they didn't do that, because they have a bigger story to tell with Damian Priest and the Judgment Day. Damian Priest holds the Money in the Bank. What could happen in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months leading towards the implosion of the Judgment Day? We're going to have to wait and see, but nonetheless, everything about this match was perfect, from a spot perspective, from an in-ring perspective, even though that's the same thing, from a story perspective. Everything about this was great. I loved this. The nods back to SummerSlam in 2016 was phenomenal as well. Everything was great. I didn't like the outcome, but WWE has their plans, and they do have their plans regarding the story that they want to tell. So I understand why they didn't put the belt on Balor. But to say the least, Balor really is deserving of a world championship. I feel like Balor doesn't really get the credit that he really deserves, but Balor has done a very good job ever since joining Judgment Day last year. Judgment Day now, compared to where they were last year, not only under Edge, but when they kicked out Edge, albeit way too early, they were starting to get a little bit stale now looking back at it. At first, I didn't really think of that way, because I actually liked the work that Edge was doing with Judgment Day. But if you really think about it, they were starting to get stale. But ever since Triple H took over, Judgment Day has been a main focus on the Raw show, and they're on the verge of becoming the second best faction behind the Bloodline in all of WWE, which is great to see. But those are my thoughts on that match. We had Asuka taking on Charlotte Flair, taking on Bianca Belair for the WWE Women's Championship. Overall thoughts on this match, to be quite honest with you, I wasn't really in tune with this match. I'm not really going to go through everything in this whole match as well. Right now it's actually 2 a.m. I'm fucking tired. But I want to give you guys this review and give you guys my thoughts. I could easily come on here and say this was the weakest match of the entire show, but it really wasn't. That honor goes to Shayna versus Ronda, in my opinion. That honor goes to that match. But I will say, I love how people were very upset that Trish and Becky got delayed to like a Raw. I am in full support of that decision. Not because of the fact that Trish and Becky are women, but because of the fact that the storyline itself between Becky and Trish just made no sense whatsoever. And honestly, it was the same repeated thing over and over and over again, and it was just a terrible feud for the sake of being a terrible feud. I'm glad that Trish and Becky didn't happen. Hold that off for another date. Not only that, the show is way too fucking long. And me going into this triple threat match when it comes to the women, I knew for a fact that this match was not going to be that good. Because of the fact that you have to ask yourself this: how are you going to follow Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor? That was my biggest takeaway. How the fuck are you going to follow that match that was that good, that had everything? That had in-ring athleticism, callbacks, story, everything you want in a wrestling match you got in Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. I was not invested whatsoever in what I was watching between Asuka, Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair. That being said, who I believe is honestly the MVP of this whole match was Bianca Belair. Now, what's interesting is that Bianca Belair was the one that pinned Asuka. I believe it was via a cradle or a roll-up, even though those are the same thing. Bianca Belair won the women's title. But what happened was Io won the women's title. I'll be talking about that later on, but this match didn't really do it for me. You can tell the crowd was very, very, very burnt out with what they were watching. You could just see, like, this show was going on way too long, and honestly, immediately after the Seth and Finn match, I was like, oh yeah, Tribal Combat is next, and I completely forgot that we had a triple threat match next. But nonetheless, this was a fine match, but was it the best match? Absolutely not. Basically, some key points of the match. Basically, Bianca goes for a cartwheel moonsault. Later on in the match, Bianca actually, gets injured. I believe she took a dive over the top rope. And what happened was when she took that dive over the top rope, I believe she landed on her knee on the steel steps. That looked fucking painful. Now, the camera, I believe the camera did not pan, and there was no camera on Bianca's side on where she fell. But, if that was a work, Bianca sold her fucking ass off. But that looked very legitimate, and Bianca actually got carried away. But one of the things that I liked was what happened was Charlotte applied the figure eight on Asuka, but then Bianca comes back, and Bianca comes in and hits a freaking 450 on Charlotte while Charlotte had the figure eight applied on Asuka. That spot I loved. Bianca was 100% the MVP of this entire match, just by that spot alone. Later on in the match, of course, Charlotte goes for the figure four into the figure eight on Bianca. Asuka comes in, she spits the mist on Charlotte, and then we get the inside cradle by Bianca on Asuka, and Bianca wins the women's title. Now, the decision to pin Asuka, for me, made no sense. Now, knowing what happened after, I'm going to be fine with that decision. But still, if we were going to have Bianca Belair pin Asuka, like literally 2 months into Asuka's title reign, what was really the point of dropping, Bianca dropping the belt at Night of Champions? What was really the point? There was really no point whatsoever to really have Bianca drop those titles. Now looking back at it, that's just my opinion. But I will say, after this match was what really, I don't want to say changed my perspective, but just what I fucking loved, because this woman absolutely deserves it. After the match, Io Sky's music plays and she comes out. Bayley, of course, hits Charlotte and everybody with the briefcase. Bianca hits Bayley. Io hits Bianca. She cashes in. The match starts. Io goes for the moonsault. A beautiful moonsault, to say the least. And what happens is we get a cover, and Io wins the WWE Women's Championship. Overall thoughts was, this was just fucking awesome. Io Sky 100% deserves it. Now, you're going to have a lot of people on the internet say, oh, you see, Damage Control worked. Look at this long-term plan with Damage Control. Now, Damage Control is going to be loved by everybody. No. Damage Control is and will always be a failed experiment. Io Sky winning the Women's Championship, honestly, was the right decision to make, because it gives some sort of direction when it comes to the current Women's Champion. I do believe Io Sky will be a dominant Women's Champion. And she fucking deserves it. She's been working her ass off for years. And Io is so talented in the ring that she just backs it up in every fucking segment. Every segment and every just way that she does, she'll always back up what she is. And Io just knocked it out of the park. And the pop when Io Sky won the women's title was out of this fucking world. But Io Sky is the WWE Women's Champion. The triple threat match was not the best match. The crowd throughout the majority of the match was dead. They would pop for some moments, especially near the end, but they really popped for Io Sky. So, yeah, hats off to Io Sky. She absolutely deserves it. And Io Sky is your new WWE Women's Champion. We got the main event. Roman Reigns taking on Jey Uso in tribal combat for the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. I don't want to lie to you guys. I thought this match was great. Was it the best Bloodline match? No. If anything, and this is typical with Roman. Roman, in all of his matches, especially as like this current incarnation, Roman always starts his matches very slow, and then they start picking up the pace, like, you know, usually in the middle or the end. But there was something about this match where I thought it felt a little too slow. If you compare this match to the Bloodline Civil War that we got last year with, of course, Roman and Solo taking on the Usos, yeah, it started off slow, but the atmosphere in London, you know, you just couldn't ignore it. You were not bored when you were watching this because you knew you were seeing something special. I'm not saying what you were seeing special happened here, because you clearly were seeing something special. You were seeing how Jey Uso is just loved by the audience. And you can just see that Jey Uso is really taking his role very seriously. But one thing I will say, and this is completely out of the realm when it comes to the match itself, but regarding the entrance, the entrances were awesome. Jey Uso, man, he makes his entrance, right? And when he gets into the ring, he goes to like the second rope, and he puts his arms like up and down, and kind of like in a hip hop concert, you do this, like you have your arms like go up and down, up and down, up and down. Jey Uso had the crowd do that. They had their arms go up and down, up and down, up and down. It looked like a freaking, concert. And I ain't gonna lie, Jey Uso's gonna get that shit over. He just is. He's gonna get that shit over. Roman made his entrance. Overall thoughts on this whole match. I'm not gonna go through this match spot by spot, but I'm gonna really give you my perception of the whole match. I thought this match was great. Of course, when it comes to any Bloodline match, the biggest takeaway is the story of the match. When it comes to the Bloodline, story comes over work rate. And that's really how it should work in wrestling. Story always is number one, because when it comes to story, that is what drives the viewership. That is what drives, I don't want to say the revenue, but that is what drives the overall interest. And the reason why people are interested in the Bloodline story is because of how good the story is and how it has evolved ever since the beginning of the Bloodline, ever since Roman turned heel back in, of course, the fall or the summer of 2020 during the pandemic. Jey looked phenomenal in this match. There was some crazy moments, in the match where he would hit, Jey. Roman would hit Jey repeatedly with the chair. Jey would fight back. There would be moments in the match where Jey Uso would literally, he would grab a belt and just spank Roman Reigns. Or no, it wasn't a belt; it was a strap, and he would just whoop Roman's ass with the strap. This was great. Jey goes for a somersault senton on Roman on the outside. Then, of course, what happens is later on in the match, Solo Sikoa enters the fray when both are in the crowd. And yes, the fight did break out with the crowd, and that was great to see. Solo's involvement, they teased something major when it came to Solo. A lot of people were thinking, oh, what if tonight is the night that Solo Sikoa is going to turn on Roman Reigns? I don't see that happening anytime soon. Do I think it will happen? Yes, I do believe Solo Sikoa will turn on Roman Reigns. But I feel like it's going to be a scenario where it's going to be a long-term thing that's going to be teased and teased and teased every single week. Very similar, and I've mentioned this before, very similar to the buildup of Batista splitting away from Evolution and seeing that Triple H is a manipulator. Something like that. We're going to see something similar to that with Solo Sikoa. I genuinely believe that. And they definitely showed it in this match with Solo Sikoa. They teased something. They really teased something. But overall, this was great. Roman goes for the strap. He gets the ass whooping. Solo Sikoa enters the fray. Of course, the questioning by Solo Sikoa. Later on at the end of this match, of course, Jey Uso out of nowhere spears Roman through the barricade after, Solo questions Roman. Solo then continues to attack Jey Uso. Solo exposes the announce table. He tries to go for the spinning solo on Solo Sikoa, but then Jey goes for the super kick. Jey goes for a splash on Solo through the table, but then Jey got payback from what Solo did to Jimmy by putting him through the table. Once we're back from commercial break, we get a spear. I said commercial break. Jesus Christ, I am so tired. I said commercial break, bro. This is a fucking pay-per-view. What am I talking about? Back in the ring, we get a spear on Roman. Jey goes to the top. We get the Uso splash by Jey. We get a cover by Jey, but a hooded figure comes in. The hooded figure comes in, and he drags Jey Uso out of the ring. The hooded figure reveals himself, and it's Jimmy Uso. Jimmy then stares at Jey Uso. We get a bunch of "fuck you, Jimmy" chants by the crowd in Detroit, and Michael Cole was just pissed the fuck off. He was pissed, absolutely pissed off about what he had just seen. You want to talk about emotion? Michael Cole was fucking emotional. You know, you would think he'd be very emotional towards Dominic, bro. He was fucking emotional during this moment. Jimmy super kicks his own brother, Jey. Takes Jey back into the ring. Roman looks shocked. Roman spears Jey. Cover. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns wins Tribal Combat. He's still your undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, but more importantly, he is still your Tribal Chief. What are my thoughts on Jimmy Uso costing Jey Uso the match? Now, this was speculated for months now. Jimmy Uso, right? If you look at throughout the whole Bloodline story dating back to, when Jey first fell in line. Jimmy, of course, was injured, and then when he came back in 2021, of course, there was a little bit of a ruffle over there, but he eventually joined Roman Reigns. Jimmy, I don't want to say was a supporting character, but I'm going to say he was kind of a supporting character throughout the majority of the Bloodline. Really, the key characters were Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and Jey Uso. Of course, when Sami Zayn entered the fray, Jimmy Uso did play a role as Sami Zayn's I don't want to say best friend, but he was the guy before Jey Uso saw how great of a person Sami Zayn was. Jimmy Uso already saw that in him. But Jimmy Uso really kind of played second fiddle to Jey. And you can definitely see it. And I've always stated the reason why the Bloodline storyline is so good is because it elevates everybody. It elevated Jey Uso, more importantly. It elevated Sami Zayn. It elevated Solo Sikoa, and they're clearly setting the stage on what they're going to be doing with Solo Sikoa in the future. They teased it in this match. Hell, it elevates Paul Heyman, and it even elevates Jimmy Uso when he super kicked Roman Reigns. Now, there are pros and cons with Jimmy Uso turning on Jey. The con, and this is a major, major, major con in my opinion, is the fact that if it is true and if he is aligned back with Roman Reigns, you basically undid everything that you have done throughout the past few months after WrestleMania. And to me, that is wrong. I don't think that was the right decision to make. But the major question that we need to ask ourselves is Jimmy still involved with Roman Reigns in the Bloodline? What if Jimmy is basically going solo and he's doing his own thing? We don't know. Yes, he did help Roman win the match, but he didn't really celebrate with Roman. Of course, he was the guy that super kicked Roman at Night of Champions. We do not know. But the major pro, and this is why I'm for it at the same time, it's because of the fact that, we've seen brothers versus brothers feud before. We've seen matches, with brother against brother. We've seen it with Cody and Dustin. Phenomenal match at the MGM Grand. And we've seen feuds like this. But we've never seen the Usos feud against each other. And honestly, that is so intriguing to me. I don't know, something about it. It just sounds very intriguing, and you honestly have your main event for next month. You have it for Payback, which I believe is the next pay-per-view. We're going to be getting Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. And it's going to show a side of Jimmy Uso that we really haven't seen get into full fruition, if that makes any sense. I think Jimmy Uso is going to get elevated even further than he already has. He's been elevated, but he wasn't really elevated as much as Jey Uso or Sami Zayn was. He was elevated, but not as much. Jimmy Uso now with this whole heel turn that happened. Yes, the con is you kind of undid everything that you were building up towards this match, and of course what you were building up towards Money in the Bank with the Bloodline Civil War. But again, it's intriguing with the Usos feuding against one another because you already create another story that fans haven't seen before. And of course that is the Usos feuding against one another. So I totally understand why they did this whole thing. It's going to be very interesting to see what goes on. But overall thoughts on this whole entire match. Was this match amazing? No, it got the job done. Of course, Bloodline matches are always story-driven matches. The story is first, wrestling is second. And that's how it should be at the end of the day. But again, you know, when it comes towards the match itself, and you would compare this to like the Bloodline Civil War, I felt the tribal combat match felt a little bit too slow, in my opinion. A little bit too slow. That's just my opinion on the nature of the situation. But nonetheless, Jimmy Uso turns on his own flesh and blood, Jey Uso, and we have a new feud going into fruition, possibly leading into Payback, and we got a whole new program happening. But yeah, that was my SummerSlam review. Overall thoughts on this pay-per-view. I thought this was a great show. Was this better than Money in the Bank? No, not really. It wasn't. But nonetheless, this was a phenomenal show. I enjoyed this show for what it was. The crowd in Detroit was off the frickin' charts, and they delivered 110%. I really did enjoy what I was watching. The tribal combat, say what you want about it, but it got the job done. Cody versus Brock blew away all expectations, in my opinion. I thought that match was phenomenal. Seth Rollins and Finn Balor completely blew their last match out of the water because their last match was pretty disappointing if you really think about it. But nonetheless, this was an overall great show. Logan Paul and Ricochet as well. Gunther and Drew McIntyre. Everything about the show was great. Yeah, there were some duds, but they were not, I don't want to say they were not that bad of duds, but they were duds. But nonetheless, this was a great show, and WWE continues to prove time and time again why they are masters at the pay-per-view formats, because WWE, literally, their pay-per-views this year have been fucking top-notch at the end of the day. But yeah, that was my WWE SummerSlam review, of course, from August 5th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later for the AEW Collision review. Peace.